Bonjour à tous et bienvenue. Comme prévu, la session d'aujourd'hui va être en anglais, mais parfois nous prenons tout commentaire ou question en français ou anglais. Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. My name is Craig Larson. I'm excited to be able to share my recent experience from Connections. A little bit about me. I've been with Incloud just over 2 years now as Senior Director, Client Solutions and Success. What that basically means is that I'm super passionate about the experience that Incloud provides to our potential and existing clients, and focused on the success we are able to drive together. Just a couple of housekeeping topics to get out of the way before we begin. Everyone is on mute. However, you will be able to ask your questions via the chat window at any point in time. We don't want anybody forgetting any questions that you may have as we're sharing the topics that we're going to be discussing today. And then we're going to answer those questions once we get to the Q&A section at the end. Also, the session is being recorded, and we will provide a copy of it once you guys complete the survey that you'll get in the next day or so. We also want the session to be interactive. So we're going to be using polls scattered throughout the presentation to kind of gauge your level of interest and feedback on the topics. As we're going to be talking a lot about customer experience and engagement, we want your engagement with us so we can either improve for the next ones or keep us on track if we kind of veer off in today's session. Also, I'm super happy to be joined by the fantastically energetic Anna Maria as co-host. Anna, why don't you tell the folks a bit about yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Anna Maria Morena. I'm the marketing and e-commerce strategist at Incloud. So I've been there for just about a year now, but before that, I was a long-time Salesforce customer. But this is my first year attending Connections as a partner as opposed to a client. So got to hang out with Craig for 3 days.
I'm sure that was an awesome time.
Amazing.
Okay, thanks, Anna. Okay, let's get to it. So what is Salesforce Connections? For those of you who've never attended physically or have never partake in actually or even heard of what Salesforce Connections is, Salesforce hosts an annual customer experience and engagement conference in Chicago. And if I were to summarize what purpose it serves, I can describe it as 3 packed days of dedicated conversations, networking, workshops, and amazing energy, all aimed at helping companies understand not only why, but how to drive up the level of their customer engagements and therefore the experiences that they offer. Mm-hmm. We all know that a happy customer stays with you longer, increases their loyalty, and ultimately their spend. The amount of information available at Connection can be, well, it actually was overwhelming. Therefore, what Anna and I did to carve out today's recap was really take all of the learnings from the sessions and workshops that we attended, and trust, we attended a lot of them.
Big time.
And then we kind of overlaid all of that subject topics with the conversations that we actually had with clients, prospects, Salesforce themselves, and other partners to come up with what we felt resonated the most in terms of value, and also what near-time applicability, or in other words, how could you come out of today's session to be able to have an action plan that you can bring back to your organization either later on today or in the next couple of weeks.
While saving yourself a trip to Chicago.
Yes, and yes, very cost effective. So we had no choice but to divide and conquer. So Anna was going to be focusing on the marketing and the e-commerce side of the Connection conference. And then I'm going to kind of do the overarching topics that we're covering, the engagement and the experience that could span over sales, service, and recapping what Anna is going to be covering as well. So part of Salesforce's commitment also beyond the technology is the positive impact that it wants to keep driving within the community. And I feel it's super important to also share that we did take some time to support Big Brother and Big Sisters of the Chicago local area by building school backpacks for the local Chicago area schools. We also helped fund a sustainability project in Tanzania, I believe, by simply using a reusable water bottle that we were all given instead of those single-use plastic bottles. The results did not only make us feel like we're making a difference, but the impact is real, and you can see the statistics on the slide.
So for those of you who've never been to Connections, here's a quick visual summary of what it's like. Essentially, there's a ton of people. There's a lot of learning. And oh yeah, Gwen Stefani.
Oh, Gwen Stefani, what an amazing concert.
I know.
We want to just check out, who's a fan of Gwen?
Oh, Gwen wins over Blake. Oh, it's tight. Ooh.
All right, thanks for that, folks. Okay, back to business. Anna, why don't you kick us off?
Yes, thank you. So as Craig mentioned, I'll be focusing more on the marketing and e-commerce track at Connections, hence my title. And I just want to look at the overarching sort of trends that I saw while I was there in terms of marketing and e-commerce and the evolved digital customer. And there was four real topics that sort of stood out to me. Number one was the need for real-time digital engagements and how customers now more than ever are expecting this seamless, continuous experience across all the different various channels. So, you know, if you have a customer service case open, you don't necessarily want to be receiving marketing emails for that promotion, or, you know, if you've opened a case on chat and you're speaking to an existing chat representative, to sort of have this evolution that they heard you and it's sort of a continued conversation, not siloed, not disjointed, and not that you have to repeat yourself over and over again. And the thing is now, if you're really not delivering this type of an experience to a customer, more and more, they're going to look elsewhere for a company that will deliver this experience for them. In terms of another marketing trend that I saw was chatbots, conversational commerce, and this behavior of a micro brand behaving like a micro brand. So in terms of technology, chatbots, anything that can help optimize the service level that we deliver to a customer or their overall customer experience. This is really big. So there was a lot of talk about how Alexa, Siri, and sort of the Google assistants of the world can help with this, and how you can use it to sort of upsell purchases by being responsive to the customer needs. We also saw conversational commerce, this notion of online chat and sending customers SMS reminders, or even just look at the example of West Elm here, like on the right, you're basically able to show a video of the room, recommend the best possible product, and then actually even purchase the product within the app. So whether it be with Apple Pay or Google Pay, and it's really showing the concept how you can not only increase customer loyalty, but also get more purchases out of your customers. And then lastly, during this same talk, there was this notion of behaving like a micro brand. And I never really heard this before. I mean, or I've never really maybe heard it explained before, but it was really using, leveraging highly targeted marketing campaigns to really zone in on a specific clientele. You know, so the example of Adidas that they were giving, for example, focusing in on specifically Adidas runners. And this is its own tribe of people. It's its own like sort of group of people that you can really have, you know, either use social media to find them or use social media to engage with this audience, but have authentic conversations with a small group of people, provide value through them to hyper personalization, and oddly enough, thinking niche, but getting really huge results from this as well.
Okay, hold on, Anna. I am curious as to see from the audience, who believes your company would benefit from online chat? Or if you're actually using chat, you're seeing the benefit?
Oh, wow.
That's actually very interesting. So definitely chat is becoming more and more mainstream in terms of the ability to engage with a company or a brand.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually surprised. Good job, guys. One of the next trends that I saw was cult brand behavior and how it could really increase the revenue that you can get from a customer. So cult brand behavior, these are the Soul Cycles of the world. These are the sort of CrossFit people of the world. We all know those CrossFit people. They're super great.
And vegans.
I didn't want to say that, but yes. You beat me to it.
I'm joking.
But,
I'm not as vegan.
We're still getting hate mail after this. But that being said, it's really brands that are hyper focused on the customer, how they've mapped out the customer experience, the customer life cycle from end to end, and all of their marketing efforts are integrated. Every touch point is personalized. They definitely leverage automation a heck of a lot for for them to accomplish all of this, but it's really conveying this message. They're a purpose-driven business, and they essentially have a cult following. And I know this sounds creepy, and at first I'm like, oh great, another CrossFit person. But the thing is, I was looking at some of the numbers that they were showing, and the thing is that these brands could rarely do any wrong thereafter. Once people are on this bandwagon, not only do you have a higher customer lifetime value of higher loyalty, higher engagement, but you're essentially making more money by behaving like this. And this just got me thinking, what can some retailers do in their existing operations to via a mission or a credo or anything else in their efforts that can really develop this type of a cult brand following? Because in the end, it sounds creepy, but it definitely pays off. And
just to interject on that, you can even actually look in a lot of the conversations I was having with Salesforce people themselves. Salesforce has developed a very strong cult brand as a B2B organization.
Yes.
So not in their one-to-one model, whereby they give 1% of their profits, 1% of their products, and 1% of their people's time, is actually fostering that loyalty and that cult-like behavior, whereby even if there's an upset that happens from an employee perspective, they can get over it because of all the other goodness that they're getting out of the brand.
Salesforce.
Sorry to interrupt, Anna, but I just thought I felt.
No, I love their brand. I love their little bonhams and the little people and like their icons, their branding. I've always said this, not just working at Incloud, but as a customer, I was like, everything's integrated. I'm so like, I have brand envy when it comes to Salesforce. But anyway, there are partners now, so I can't say.
Okay, I put you to your next slide.
That being said, the last slide is actually about Salesforce. So it is really interesting. We attended Partner Connect the first day, which is exclusively just for partners of Salesforce. And they sort of tell us about like all the upcoming acquisitions or sort of all the new technology that's coming out. And it impressed me this year more so as a partner as opposed to attending like a consumer in previous years, that Salesforce has really evolved and they understand the CRM challenges that are coming up. So, Castle and GDPR and people dealing with legacy infrastructures or data accuracy not always being super awesome. And just new digital touch points coming up every day, and they're adapting. And I was kind of just really impressed with that. And you hear, okay, they've acquired Tableau and they've introduced MuleSoft and there's now Quip and Datorama and CloudPraise and all these things. But it was just really interesting to see how they take this stuff seriously and they're constantly reinventing themselves. And yeah, they're definitely an awesome partner. I think I saw it for the first time this year.
And I think one of the biggest benefits that they have in their own strategy of acquisition of functionality, features, and just to deal with the increasing, and I'm going to get to this later, but the increasing expectation that customers have for the experience is how do they take away the requirement for organizations to integrate all these disparate features and functions and do that on your behalf, so that when you start leveraging the platform, the addition of Tableau as an example, we don't know what that looks like right now, but I'm sure as what we've seen with Demandware and Commerce Cloud, the integration into the extendability of someone having Sales and Service Cloud and then tying in commerce, it just makes it a lot easier for an organization to move into that new direction of technology.
Yeah. Next up, in terms of technology, the next big block of sessions that I attended was really focused on AI, Einstein AI, and sort of how it applies to both Marketing Cloud and Commerce Cloud. And I know when I was a customer, we barely touched upon using AI. I think we spoke about it many, many, many times, but it was always sort of like this intimidating and really daunting thing that would require feeds and all this other stuff. So we never really got around to it, but it was a really, really prominent topic this year, and basically saying how they were just showing a few stats at the beginning of this about how by 2025, AI is essentially going to be baked into all solutions, that it sort of fades into the background. It's not, the novelty of it is sort of gone. And at this point, if you're not really doing it, you're sort of falling behind in terms of everybody else who's going to be taking bigger pieces of your pie. So that was really interesting to see. And then they just went on to, this session was particularly geared about speaking about all the different launches in terms of Marketing Cloud and Commerce Cloud. So in terms of personalization, how there's content recommendations that are now available to Marketing Cloud, language insights. So this is anything from changing a word or a phrase and replacing it with a word or a phrase that's gonna have higher engagement levels. I thought that was really interesting. So I find this often falls on copywriters to sort of figure out, but there's actually artificial intelligence that can just make this decision for you now. And even just things in terms of content tagging and making it more intuitive to find your images, which is making your programmers' lives a lot easier. And then a bunch of insights with regards to sort of marketing and social, specifically Marketing Cloud and Social Studio. So they covered a few of those, and a lot of these are super easy to turn on in your existing instance. I actually did it the other day. Actually, I did it the first day we got back. I turned on our Einstein content engine. So the data is going to sort of feed into that. It takes about 90 days, but I definitely flipped the switch for us. So I'd be really interested to see that going forward. The next big topic with Einstein AI was engagement. So all the new releases in terms of engagement scoring, how to send maybe less emails, or how to try to figure out different channels to reach your customers if email isn't working. Also send time optimization. This is particular to journeys, journeys which we often set and then absolutely forget about. But this is cool because it actually optimizes the best send time to have the best possible open rate for the emails within this journey. So I thought that was really interesting. And then in the journeys as well, there was this Einstein persona split they were talking about, and how it sort of automatically categorizes people into predefined buckets that you determine. But this could be something like, are you a selective shopper, or are you just a window shopper, or are you dormant, and does there need to be like a win-back campaign that needs to happen thereafter? But it sort of just places you into these buckets based on your behavior, and kind of it does all the heavy lifting for you. So that too, instead of customers sort of racking their brain to figure this out, the software will actually tell you.
When I first heard that, when we did our dry runs, I actually thought you were talking about personality splits. So I thought you were talking, how can you deal with the two sides of someone's personality?
I wish I had that tool for some of my life experiences, but we're going to keep it to Salesforce. But and then one of the last presentations I was able to attend was one of the heads of Elf Cosmetics shared her dashboard for Commerce Cloud. So this was the Commerce Einstein Insights, and she was showing us all the different features for predictive sort and how they use this to put the best products at the top of the homepage, or for example, in product recommendations, how they could use this, how they look at the data from search recommendations, and they're actually able to tell, like, okay, what are the most sought after products? What should we be showing in emails? What should we be showing on other category landing pages or merchandising? Like, it's really cool how it was helping them make a lot of merchandising decisions. Also, Einstein product recommendations. This is by far one of the easiest things to turn on because you literally have all the past behavior of the customer. And then you're like, okay, how can we increase conversion with them? How can we try to upsell? How do we try to cross-sell to them? But it was really interesting to hear Elf Cosmetics and sort of where they're going in the next few years. I rediscovered this brand, I'm going to say, during Connections, and it was really interesting speaking to the head over there.
Okay, excellent. Your strategy side is really coming out today, Anna.
I know, right?
So I want to ask the folks one of the next poll questions. And what are your specific thoughts on AI? Is your company currently using AI? Part of the reason also that we're doing these polls is to get, like I said at the beginning, a pulse of where you guys are at, so we can then potentially do another event or webinar on these topics that you are showing most interest in to help drive the conversation.
Also, we're just checking to make sure you haven't fallen asleep on us. So, no, but we're considering it. That seems to be
great. Okay, so there's a lot of opportunity to start looking at how AI can increase the level of your engagement and experience that you're offering your both consumers or B2B, because we use AI internally at Incloud, and it definitely helps us keep on top of things.
Yeah, I mean, if I was able to turn on the switch in our email, I mean, anybody could do it. Literally.
Oh, yes. Hey, then we just lost a job.
Aw. You guys may not hear me after this webinar.
Okay.
So the next block of sessions that I sort of condensed all this information to was really about email and website best practices. And I know this topic comes out a lot, but dynamic content more and more and more is just becoming a must. And it's really using your segments to serve the best possible content to your users, whether it be male, female, or geographical information, or even like there was an example from Nordstrom over here in terms of weather, So if it's sunny, you show them this image. Versus if it's cloudy, it's the girl with the hat, and she's kind of like a little more bundled up.
So wait, you mean Nordstrom knows where I am at the time that I'm looking at their email?
Yeah, even when you're sleeping, it knows what you know.
Wow.
It's basically you're able to sort of set triggers within the system to say, okay, if this threshold is reached or not reached, you're able to serve this content versus that content. In this case, it's the example of weather. But I mean, like, there's another example that we saw in one of the sessions was something as simple as just saying when something is available, when a product is available online, when it becomes available in store and online, or when it becomes sold out online. Like, that's definitely saving customers a trip to the store, getting frustrated, or, you know, actually just letting a customer choose whatever channel they want to purchase this product in that moment. But it's keeping them up to date without a programmer necessarily having to go back and change or resending another email, or it's just this does all the work for you. So
cool.
That was definitely a cool part in terms of dynamic content. But like I said, not that many people are using it. We all say, yeah, dynamic content is great, but there's not that many retailers that are putting this into practice using the tool. Another thing I saw that was really interesting was polling your email database. And I know this sounds super intuitive, but literally just taking the time to ask your email customers what they want to see, and not just through the preference center, because they may have gone to a preference center and filled out that, you know, their likes and dislikes 2 years ago, and that may have evolved or changed. But they were showing an example of Harry Potter, which I've actually never seen any of the movies. And
I haven't either, so.
Oh my God, we're like the worst. What is wrong with us? But that being said, they were showing the different teams or groups. I don't even know what they're called, but they look really cool. But just by asking what type of content you want to see in terms of either Gryffindor or Hufflepuff, I'm going to try to present that. How basically the open rate not only increased by 260%, but the click-through rate actually went up by over 300%.
So wait, are you telling, so the customers are now self-categorizing themselves?
Yes, exactly. So like, I may think you're a segment, like maybe I think you're a Hufflepuff, but maybe you're going to tell me that you're a Ravenclaw, and you know, maybe then I can cater my labels to say, you know, trashing one and pushing the other, but it's just, obviously your level of engagement is going to go up because you've told me what you want to see. And like I said, it's literally just keeping a pulse on your customers to say, hey, are you still this? I mean, same could be seen for basketball, like NBA, NFL. This could be used for sports teams. This could be used for like a slew of other examples. In this case, it was Harry Potter, which I took the reference that I couldn't even reference. But that being said,
I think you did a good job.
Oh, thanks.
Congratulations.
Thanks. I think I'm going to go with Gryffindor if I had to pick a. I think that was the hot guy in the movie, but I don't remember. Anyway. Lastly, there was this notion of permission, how permission is sort of everything. And I know we all kind of got the castle scare and the GDPR, and yes, permission is really important, but not a lot of people are doing this still. And you really have to be super explicit about your opt-in. Like sometimes there's like that pre-checked off box to say like, oh yeah, I'm opt-in to receive your emails, and then like you can unsubscribe at any time, but it's super quiet and it's almost sneaky. And that could have worked for the longest time, but now they're sort of really cracking down on this. And you just have to be really explicit about that and sort of, what are you exchanging? In order for me to give you my email, what do I get in terms of value in exchange? And to really make that clear to the customer so they're sort of making an informed decision, and that the people that you have on your list are actually sort of qualified.
So just on that point, folks, just keep that in mind, because I'm going to go a bit deeper with the level of trust that everything that we're talking about and how that's translating into the level of trust that people need to have with a brand or company in order to increase, their engagement.
Yeah, great. In terms of another sort of best practice and trend that they were talking about when it comes to email, it's really letting go of those who are unengaged. And I know everybody's going to have a really tough time with this. I mean, I experienced this. I know when I had to talk to my executives there, and I was just like, maybe we shouldn't email these people. Maybe we should segment them. I think the panic I saw in their eyes with, they had this notion of, no, the more people we email, the more chances we have of people opening, and the more chances, it's all about like, it's a game of chance and probability. But in this case, it's really quality over quantity. And it's sort of worse now because actually ISPs are paying attention to this. So you're almost going to be penalized for having low engagement rates. If customers are not opening your emails, companies like Gmail and Yahoo, they know. And, inbox placement is going to become a really big deal for you very soon if you sort of don't adapt and you don't start segmenting, and you don't start using best send times and segments or whatever the case may be. But they're paying attention, and you definitely have to adapt going forward, whether it be using AI tools or doing this manually. But click-through rates are super, super important now, or even just when it comes to Gmail. I think this is how Gmail Postmaster tools came to be, because retailers have to really adapt to this new reality. Next up on the list was accessibility, and this originally wasn't what I thought it was. I thought it was accessibility in terms of visual and hearing impairments, but it's actually more so just the fact that people check their email absolutely everywhere. Actually, a lot of people check their email from the bathroom, which is kind of gross. But that being said, we sort of have to adapt to this new reality, and retailers need to adjust. And whether that means having HTML text in your email so that people can read it from the metro, or putting captions in your videos so people don't need headphones to actually view the content, or high contrast screens when you're outdoor. I mean, I know when I'm trying to look at Instagram outside, forget it. I look like I need a seeing eye dog because I'm moving my screen all over the park, and I look like an absolute crazy person. But this is just the reality of life today. And you can see an example. This was one of the examples that they showed in one of the slides, sort of how having the word gallery in not only different colors, but different backgrounds, but how it really sort of optimizes the page so that whether you're on vacation or probably in the bathroom, you're going to be able to read the content that the retailer is trying to show you. Last in terms of trends was always on campaigns and testing. So this is really customers and retailers needing to, well, not customers so much, but retailers needing to embrace automation, but not sort of like set it and forget it, which I remember when I was a customer, we used to do this. We launched a journey, and I think we were so relieved to launch like 8 journeys that we sort of forgot about them for very long periods of time because we were just happy to be done with them. And it was this whole notion of set it and forget it, but you kind of can't do that. You have to let automation do the work for you, but test regularly, monitor your campaigns regularly. I mean, there's an app. There's almost no excuse in Marketing Cloud to not be able to see how your campaigns are performing, but test the timing of viewing, test the different content to see what would be performing better versus less. Test something as small as subject line and pre-headers and sort of how your customers react to that, or even just change channels at that point. If you see that your customers are not interacting with your emails, then switch channels, switch to social, switch to paid media, but it's really embrace automation, but sort of don't forget about it.
And I just want to, sorry Anna, but I just wanted to interject because in the sessions that I was dealing on and the conversations that we're having with B2B clients, this is also resonating within, the Pardot world and the lead nurturing and the campaigns that they are creating to be able to provide relevant personalized content. And now the consumerism of these campaigns is bleeding into how do companies get smarter on nurturing and communicating in the B2B world.
Yeah, not waste time, not waste your employees'
Exactly.
time, not waste yeah, I completely understand. So last big topic for me, obviously, doom and gloom, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and holidays. So this is pretty much every retailer's biggest quarter of the year. I mean, you can see that in the graph over there. Look at the difference between like Cyber Week versus post and thereafter. This is essentially your Super Bowl. This is a time of year when conversion can go up to, on average, can just rise by 4.4%. So you definitely want to capitalize on this time of the year. And what I was seeing through a lot of the sessions was that more and more people are sort of planning for this. And maybe it's a retail thing, but we used to always sort of wing Black Friday. I think we started planning 6 weeks out and we're like, oh my God, yay, we're ahead of the curve. But now it's serious business. There's like literally PMs dedicated to monitoring Black Friday, Cyber Monday efforts. And they're in charge of doing a full mapping of the in-store experience and online and on the phone. And then from this, they get an execution playbook and they get alignment from their internal stakeholders. And they're following this playbook as if it's a Bible, but it's really just maximizing the efforts because there's a lot of money on the table, and obviously they want to fight for a bigger piece of the pie. And like I said, it's becoming a thing. Like it's not just like a few tasks in Jira. It's literally dedicated human beings that focus for 2-3 months of the year on this one task alone. And I was really impressed by that. Like I said, we've always just kind of winged it, and we still made money, but it's serious business. Next that I saw. From a more technical side of things was sort of speed and how speed is everything just during this time of year. I mean, speed is usually, people have less and less patience when navigating websites now, but even more so during this time of the year. And they were showing stats that like 50% of customers expect the page to load in 2 seconds or less. So I was just doing like
there's no patience.
Well, yeah, 2 seconds. That's not even. That's yeah. But it's true. And I catch myself leaving pages when I'm like, oh, it's taking too long. I don't have time for this. Like I don't have 2 seconds for this, and I leave. But I was doing a quick calculation. If your website's making like 100K a day, but it takes more than 3 seconds to load, that's $2.5 million per year that your company is losing. Ouch. Simply because it's not fast enough. So these are the type of things that you don't want to figure this out during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. You want to do these like sort of load testing and speed tests before, so that you're in a position where you are ready to tackle this huge amount of traffic that's going to be coming to your site. So definitely talk to your IT departments and get your stuff together for this time of year. It's coming up. A third point that I saw was the focus on AI. So kind of going back to what I was saying before, how to really leverage Einstein product recommendations. Update your homepage with this. Update your category landing pages. Change up your product detail pages. Show recommendations. Do you use wish list? Do you showcase some of these products when there's a no search results page? Or do you show some of these products within the cart or not? But anything really to leverage the information that you get from AI during this time of year, and try to make processes just like a little less manual. Furthermore, the topic of SEO came up. So I thought this was dead. Yeah, stop repeating after me. But yeah, I thought so too. But then it was really just sort of stressing how it really does have an impact, and whatever affects SEO in terms of the meta descriptions that you have on your website, whatever other meta tags you have, the type of content that you have on your website during this time of year, and then your overall site performance. So this is sort of goes hand in hand with speed. But these three factors really affect SEO, and that could be a game changer for a retailer if just done properly, you know what I mean? And then one of the other things they were talking about was this huge gap in mobile. And I think we're all sort of, we all do this. We sort of search for something on our mobile device, but then when it comes time to purchase it, we want to purchase on our desktop. I have no idea why. I don't know if it's a security thing. I don't know if we need a bigger screen. I don't know what it is, but I do this all the time. Like I search, and then I'm like, no, I can't buy it right now. So I have to go home and do this. And
I do that more personally on the Instagram ads. You know, you start searching, and then now I'm going to buy it at home.
Yeah. So I have, like I said, I don't know what the actual psychosis behind this is, but it was saying how retailers can win during this time of year because the amount of mobile traffic that you get versus the amount of mobile conversion that you get is quite high. So like, anything that you can do to make the mobile experience more seamless. So whether it be checkout being easier, whether it be the UX and UI being easier for them to follow, but just get them to buy on their mobile device, you're already winning. So that, like I said, super logical, but not a lot of people are capitalizing on this. So be the first to do so. And then lastly, there was this concept of, the first time I saw this was the idea of RPV, and I heard about this, and it's really revenue per visit. So it's calculated by total revenue earned during a specific time frame, and you divide it by the total number of visitors during that same time frame. So this metric, why it's super important, is it helps you see what's working and what's not working on your website. So what content should you invest more time into creating versus what content should you completely remove? And if you know this before Black Friday and Cyber Monday, let alone holiday, you can definitely apply this to your website beforehand. And then obviously testing. Not testing during this time frame, but testing beforehand once again, to see like what features do your customers appreciate. Should you have a collapsible coupon in the cart or a floating checkout button? Should your cart just be simplified altogether and remove the header? Or autofill forms, or now there's a technology where you can actually take a picture of your credit card and it'll sort of transcribe it onto the form. Is your customer the type of customer who's going to use that? Or something just even as simple as putting a security icon on your web page. I know this seems so 1990, maybe 2000. Okay, yeah, maybe 2000. But actually just having a security icon on your website does in fact make people feel more secure. And they had done a bunch of tests. This was one of the sessions that I attended, that they were showing the results before and after making some of these changes. And a lot of these tests had positive results. And the only one that had a negative one, which I thought was funny, was when they actually removed the breadcrumbs from the top of the page. So sort of the path to tell you where you are on the website, that actually did have a negative impact on conversion. So all of these things, whatever, figure out what's right for your customer and then apply all these quick wins to upcoming Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So that was pretty much it for me.
Well, that was a lot. It was a fantastic overview. I'm sure that, well, I'm hoping that everybody find value out of the topics that Anna covered, and you'll have a lot to discuss in your own organizations about that.
On to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. It's my turn. So I'm going to be covering customer engagement trends. And the way I did this is a bit different than Anna's approach, but I wanted to talk about customer engagement and how that leads to experience that a customer has. The way a person engages or interacts with a brand or a company really defines the experience. And today, there was a lot of noise about the customer experience stakes have never been higher. So Connections is all about customer experience, customer engagement, but at what cost, or what do organizations need to be on the watch out for? Do they have to focus on to make sure that they're delivering what consumers, both B2B and B2C, are expecting? So in this, the trust, and Anna mentioned it in terms of permissions earlier, but I'm going to be talking about how this is becoming the new business imperative, and to really earn the trust of people, because it's data at the end of the day that makes that experience able to happen. Mm-hmm. Social, I'm going to be also looking at how to layer that into a customer service process within an organization. And the reasons behind that. And finally, the rising demand for operational efficiency when an organization is trying to match or to keep up with all of these customer experience expectations, apologies. But first I want to take a step back. The fourth industrial revolution, this is a slide that we continually saw at Connections.
Yeah, I think I saw this.
I don't need a dry run anymore for this slide. I think I've drunk the Kool-Aid enough.
That and the forward statements.
Yes, the forward and the thank you slide. Sorry, we didn't thank you. We'll thank you at the end. But really, it does make sense. I mean, the fourth industrial revolution is all about connectivity. We are connected as a society, and it's really the ability for organizations to raise their own connectedness, and you're going to hear me repeat a lot of these terms, but how do you achieve that? Consumers are more connected, like I said, ever than before, and really the levels of expectation is because of that connectedness. And again, I'm going to keep on referring to consumers being both B2C, so in the personal shopper world, as well as B2B in the the business buying perspective. But as we all are consumers first, the experience that we have in our personal lives is really what's driving that shift in our professional lives. What I experience when I buy something on Amazon is what I hold people's experience to in the B2B world. So I want that same experience in my professional life that I experience in my personal life. So the customer stakes have never been higher, as I mentioned in the opening slide. Great experiences reap great rewards. 2/3 of business buyers say that they're actually going to switch brands if the company didn't make efforts to be relevant, and almost the same amount of customers are willing to pay a premium for that great experience. So there's definitely an opportunity from a revenue generation perspective if you match the experience that you're providing to be able to gain that additional price. Absolutely. What's more, a standout experience with one company prompts nearly 3/4 of the customers to hold other companies to higher standards. Keep this in mind for a later topic I'm going to be covering, because it's very interesting on the impact that that's having. But because the customer experience stakes have never been higher, there's also a huge divide that companies are being faced with to be able to offer that great experience as one experience. Because think about it. When a customer has an experience with a brand or a company, more likely than not, they are dealing with multiple divisions of that company. Mm-hmm. So take an example, I'm on the website and I'm making a purchase. And then I want to call customer service because I have a question about that purchase. So now the order ships, I have a question about the transport. I will call their transportation. And then there's something wrong with my invoicing, so I'll call the billing department. My expectation is that everyone that I'm dealing with at that organization knows what I went through and the information about me. And this is the challenge that companies have in front of them. Let's go into seeing what that gap looks like. So the omni-channelness and the omni-device behaviorness, if I'm going to coin...
I think you're
I'm inventing words right now, but it's really...
But I feel you.
It's really the different ways, Anna, you spoke to it. You know, you start on your mobile device...
Make up words, though.
But no, okay, I'm giving myself creative liberty. You start on your mobile device, you go to your desktop, you pick up the phone, and the behaviors that I'm having with each one of these mediums is making the connected experiences challenging for the companies to keep up with that. So 78% of customers expect consistent interactions across departments. And Anna, this is something that you already referenced because it's becoming more and more prevalent in that we as consumers and what the consumers are telling us. And by the way, all of these statistics and the information we're using is all taken from studies that Salesforce, or in this case, MuleSoft, conducted recently to be able to validate what we're sharing with you today. So going back, 78% of consumers expect a consistent interaction, but 66% of those customers say that they often have to repeat themselves or re-explain information to different representatives. So there's that gap that the company is having in terms of how do I make it seamless so that my sales department knows when something happens from a transaction perspective, so that when customer service is engaged, they see that sale and all the interactions that happen, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and avoid a frustrated customer.
Yeah, for sure. Because the frustration, and we're going to see it later, frustration impacts loyalty. Now, again, everything in life, there's a cost. So what is that cost of providing this level of connectivity? And the cost that I'm going to be referring to is a real impact challenge that, to keeping up with these connected experience. And it's all based on relevant data and lots of it. So the ability for a company to gain the trust of a consumer, to gain access to this data, is super important. Because if you don't have data, you're not able to use AI, you're not able to know when and how to provide that relevant and personalized experience. It's clear that the majority of folks agree, though, that when they are comfortable, with the use of this personal data only if the experience that is raised is relevant and can clearly demonstrate that the data was utilized in a manner to provide a better experience. Now customers are even more and more selective than they once were in the brands they trust.
Absolutely. I see myself doing this all the time. I mean, if I go to a retailer and at the cash, they're like, oh, we'd like your email. Why? I don't want to give them, and they're like, yeah, but we need it for, I'm like, okay, well, you're getting a dummy email because I'm not. So like, I definitely see this. If I don't see the value or the benefit, like it's always what's in it for me by exchanging this information, because often retailers abuse this, I'm talking about the B2C case, like the B2C example.
Right, yeah, no, for sure.
But I'm in that 58%. That is absolutely.
But I'm sure you would attest that if you have a brand that you gave that email address to and you start being communicated to in a relevant and personalized manner, you're more apt to give up your email address to someone else who asks for it. Because your expectation now is that new company asking for that email address is going to provide the same level.
If not, I'll be angry with the other company.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
No problem. So honesty is the best policy for earning this customer trust. So while security, reliability, serves as baseline indicators of trustworthiness, other factors such as transparency, ethics, and authenticity come into striking distance. 54% of customers say it's harder than ever for a company to earn their trust. And really, a company's trustworthiness is inextricably tied to its bottom line.
Actually, I want to see another poll, time for another poll, guys. I just want to know, what does the audience think is sort of the main behavior that affects bottom line here?
And this is really, behavior of a consumer or a business buyer is, what action do they take that has the most impact to a company's bottom line?
Loyalty, recommendations. My God, it's like a horse race.
It is like watching. I'm going to stand up, so if because my eyes are really, at this age, I'm losing it. Okay, Cool.
Loyalty, yeah.
So that is God. These people are either they went to the same session as I, but they're on the ball. So being loyal is the top behavior that has an impact on the bottom line. This is driving 95% of business influence to do business with a given company. So there were 6 total levers that were used in the study that I referenced, but I thought it was interesting to point out that even the lowest ranked one at 86% influenceability, and that was when customers shared their experiences and caused others to be influenced by this reference. I mean, think of it in our personal life. How likely are we to listen to the references that we get from the people that we know?
Absolutely.
Right? A restaurant, a brand, anything.
I definitely ask my network before making any purchase decisions. Like, hey, what do you think? Or what was your experience? Or what was, I always, feedback from them is a lot more valuable than anything else that I find.
Exactly. So now that we've seen how trust needs to be addressed in today's connected world, let's dive into another area that is very prominent with consumers and their level of engagements. So I'm going to start off with the statistics of 84% of customers want to be treated as a person and not a number. I think this is really true because as consumers, we're social creatures. I mean, let me remind you that those lines of differentiation between personal shoppers and business buyers are increasingly getting blurred. Again, I'm keeping on repeating because as you've seen the statistics, the gap between a business buyer and a personal shopper are narrowing in the responses that they're giving to all these questions. Consumers gave up snail mail and fax machines long time ago. I still had to fax a bank the other day, and I can't believe that they're still using it, but anyways.
Wow.
And phone calls are on the way out too. Social media is quickly becoming the go-to channel for customer service. And it's easy to see why. It's fast, it's easy, and customers are really on it throughout the day. Why not expect brands or other companies to keep up? In fact, when a consumer mentions your brand or company on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or even LinkedIn, they don't just hope for a response, they expect one. Switching brands or service providers is easier than ever, but prompt customer service and real-time engagement can secure the customer loyalty, which, as we saw in the previous slides, loyalty is the #1 driver to the bottom line. So why not look at layering social into your customer service strategy? So social media is the stage to deliver on. I'm sure everybody are not shocked by the numbers. Well, I was a bit in terms of per minute on Facebook. I didn't realize there were that many comments per minute.
I didn't realize there's that many people on Twitter. I thought it was only you use that when Facebook and Instagram are down.
You're really not a Twitter user, are you?
No,
okay.
no.
So there's a lot of potential engagements that have the opportunity to be transferred and supported by a positive service experience. And what I mean by service experience is that, well, let me look at an example from one of the connections at Speaker at Connections. Sorry about that. So he shared a recent tweet, yes, Twitter, that he did to AT&T Cares, and he said, "Can you please have someone to reach out? Getting horrible service on your phone lines. Thanks." Guess what happened next?
Oh, well played, Sprint.
So can you imagine the delightful experience Amas shared when he received this response? Amas is, by the way, the customer service guru over at Blue Wolf that was giving one of the sessions that I attended. This, reaction by Sprint, who's also, by the way, a Salesforce customer, has a very strong social listening strategy in place to help them be one step ahead of the others. Mm-hmm. So, and it's really not that difficult to create your own listening strategy. But before I go, I'm going to provide you the link of the Sprint Salesforce case study if you want to continue the conversation internally to sell the fact that social is becoming more and more important to be an integral part of your customer service strategy.
I'm going to take a picture and put it on my Twitter.
You actually have a Twitter account?
No.
No, I think we're going to have to create me one afterwards. All right. So what are the different listing strategies that you can put into place? And these strategies are then tied into effective case management process. You can use either a negative comment that you want to manage or a positive one that you want to leverage and reward. And let me be clear, when I say manage or reward, there's not always a direct cost or expense related to that. In a connected world, as we saw in an earlier statistic, people just want to be informed. They want to be connected with what they are sharing socially. So sometimes it's worth more than a monetary amount just by listing and taking action on that listening. So brand monitoring, so your own brand, so keywords in social conversations about what you do, your product, your service, something really specific to you. Industry, going a bit larger and saying what are people talking about in the industry that you're within, or even competition. So in the case that we just saw with Amas's tweet, he was tweeting about AT&T. Sprint is listening about all their competitors and took positive action. But there's a warning. This is the warning. The last best experience anyone has anywhere becomes the minimum expectation for the experience they want everywhere. So as you raise your bar in terms of bringing social into the experience of customer service, how do you make sure that you maintain it so that the next interaction you are still delivering on the expectation, on the experience that you just finished delivering in the other?
Okay, so I'm gonna interrupt you here. I want to know how many stalkers do we have? Yeah, what level of stalking do, or more seriously, like what level of social listening have our customers defined? For people listening in on the webinar today, haven't defined. We're trying to engage our audience as much as possible.
And I think the question I should have asked on this one is, you may have a listening strategy in place, but how closely tied in is it to your case management or your customer service? Mm-hmm. So not having one person doing all the listening and then transferring that to customer service to react, but how do you have that automated flow so that you're using the technology to be able to leverage this?
So I guess we don't have any stalkers among us, so that's great news.
Okay.
But definitely room for movement.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and the last two slides, and I'm going to do it relatively quickly because I want to be cognizant of time. So the rise of all of what I just spoke about is the challenging to keep up operationally. So because of the challenges that we need from an internal perspective for companies to be able to offer this, 81% of decision makers of customer service groups say that they must transform in order to stay competitive. Budgetary constraints have always been there and will continue to be there as a challenge. I'm going to just now focus on the unskilled agents and how do you leverage what I've learned and brought back from Connections to help them. So quickly, the history of the contact center is really where the agents live, where those customer service people live. The use of technology was always introduced to help those people deliver a better customer service experience. It started in 1990 with IVR, which is the interactive voice response, 1 for English, 2 for French, all the way up to now, augmented intelligence. And you may be asking why I'm referring to AI as augmented and not artificial.
Yeah, you're changing the acronyms.
I am. I'm not making up words. This was actually delivered. And the reason is we're talking about those interactions that still require human intervention, as we're not quite there to be fully automated. Just look at self-driving car accidents, enough said.
Oh my God, those are the best videos online.
So what we're talking about here is how to use AI to augment a person's capacity to understand, interact, answer, and guide. We can go into more detail offline on this, but it's really leveraging that information to help the agent who's underskilled because of the shifting workforce, people retiring and new people coming in. How do you get AI to leverage the increase in customer service? All right, so I always thought technology would help, and it actually, in my personal life, I never once thought that I would expect to have anything other than my Walkman for music. But now,
I've heard of these
and
things.
you heard of it? Yeah, you're too young for this. But now I expect my phone to be able to play music at any speaker that's close to me. So it's really talking about how to leverage technology to evolve the experience that you're delivering with the rising expectations.
Wait, hold on, I'm going to post this on Twitter too.
Yeah. Okay, back to the topic at hand. With all these rising expectations, the shift that marketing is playing, so marketing, the business unit, the shift from them just focus on running a marketing campaign to acquire, retain, and grow is really transitioning to managing the moments of that customer throughout their entire life cycle. So this shift is also requiring investments into the technology tools to facilitate this. Because marketing now, it's not easy anymore just to have one tool for marketing. You need to look across your organization and the different moments that your customer has with you and what technology can be put into place to extend into these moments so that you're maximizing the data that you have on these customers and seamlessly delivering that, that connected experience. And that's where really Salesforce shines above all other technology platforms, because going from marketing, awareness, communication, engagement, all the way to Service Cloud and commerce and sales, and then how do you layer in Einstein from an AI perspective, it really just extends natively into those different moments and not reinvent the wheel.
Hey, so we made it.
We made it.
Last poll, guys.
Last poll.
Everybody needs to get awake on this one, but
and I really apologize for pushing the last couple.
Talk faster, but you'll have access to the slides, so don't worry. But I guess we just want to know what topics from today's webinar sort of really align with your strategic vision so far. Email and oh, we beat Gwen Stefani. That's good news. Email, website, best practices, conversation. It's a lot of marketing and e-com. I win.
Excellent. No. Okay, folks. Well, that's a wrap. I want to thank you very much for your attendance, your participation. There was so much more that we could share with you today, but we wanted to actually give you the ability to hear what we had to share with you. We're going to send out a survey. If you reply to the survey of this webinar, you'll get a 1-hour session with our experts.
You get to hang out with us a little longer.
And to really not only talk about what this is, but how do we convert it into an action plan that you can actually start using within your organization. So thanks very much.
Let's open it up to some QAs. We have about 2-3 minutes left, so we can maybe take 1 or 2 questions, but let's check it out here. Okay, question. Les données sont pour le Canada ou autre?
Okay, les données, so the question was, are the statistics that we use, the data that we use for Canada or for others? So in the case of all of my studies, oh, and by the way, I'm going to be providing links in the survey of all the studies that we referenced, so you'll have access to that. But it does carve out the world and specific to Canada. The numbers that I showed were an aggregate of the entire findings, so Canada was included in that.
Yeah, same for me. A lot of the sessions that I went to were aggregated stats from Canada and the US. I think because a lot more American retailers were mentioned, they're slightly weighted towards American stats, like the Black Friday, Cyber Monday ones in particular. But yeah, it was a combination of both.
And I would just preface it, even if it's not Canada specific, Canada's just a couple of years behind in certain areas, and we're actually more advanced in other areas if you look at banking and just technology and transactions.
Okay, hold on, got another question. Thanks for the great info. We'll be able to see the studies that you referenced. So yeah, as you mentioned, we'll be able to.
Yeah, I'm going to provide you, I think there's 5 studies that I referenced that you'll be able to download the actual study itself.
Next, when you mention social listening, what can I do in terms of monitoring the competition?
So the competition monitoring is really looking at the brand, the product names. So identifying the keywords within the social listening tool, and then tying that into the case management to route it to the right person that's knowledgeable on your competitors. Also, you can actually monitor the stakeholders, the people. So if you look at LinkedIn, when someone changes jobs or stuff like that, you can actually leverage that type of listening. Or if someone comments on Anna as an example, use that to propel a customer service reaction. I don't know what example that we could use in terms
Well,
of
I'm
using
clearly going to
Anna's.
be replaced by AI, so you maybe see me changing jobs anytime soon.
All right.
But,
I think that was
yeah,
the
no,
last
we're
question.
totally over time. So we'll answer any other questions via email or directly with the people, so we can see you guys answer.
Fill out the survey and have a fantastic remainder of the day. Cheers.
Cheers.